in the ground somewhere that you buried a few things. But most of us don't do that anymore. We have banks. We deal electronically with our money. But back in this day, if you had a large, valuable, treasure or money or something worth value, if you're going to be called off for a while, you might go bury it someplace where only you would know where it was. Or if you're afraid of robbers or of other soldiers coming and taking over the land, they would steal all your treasure, so you would bury it. So what would happen then is if you died while you were away, or if somebody came through and took your life, that treasure might be lost forever. So this guy is in this field. We don't know what he's doing there for sure, but he's in a field, and he finds this treasure, and he covers it up. Now, in that day and time, the Jewish law would have said that finders keepers is how it works. So if you're going through a place and you find a treasure, well, then that's yours by the law, pretty much. There are a few instances where it didn't happen that way, but for the most part, whoever found it owns it. Now, when Rome kind of took over the area, things got a little more convoluted. And so that law necessarily wouldn't have been the for sure thing it was before. So in order to make sure that he did things right, he didn't just pull the treasure up and take off with it where he might have been accused of taking someone else's treasure. Or if he was working for somebody and just happened to be going by that way and found it, his boss might say, well, you were being a worker for me, and so that's my treasure. So to make sure he does it right, he just covers it back up, and he goes and sells all of his possessions to buy the land so that he can have it and make sure there's no question that it's his treasure. All right? So we understand the picture. This treasure, though, is so valuable to him that he goes and sells every single thing that he has. He sells it all. Look, the kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field, which a man found and covered up, that in his joy he goes and sells all that he has and buys that field. There's that big word all. And I told you before, in the Greek, what does the word all mean? All. Thank you. Some people remember. Some of y'all listen. The word all means all. He sold everything he has, all of it, and bought the field. So it must be that treasure is so valuable to this guy that it's worth more than everything else he has. And you can kind of picture this in your mind, right? To do that, he's got to go home and grab all his stuff. We don't know if he's married and got a family, but we know most of these towns would have been small towns. People would have noticed that he was going out and getting all of his stuff to go drop it on to buy this lot, this piece of land. And it probably was a lot of money for a small piece of land. In fact, it probably would have drawn a lot of notice from his friends and family, and they might have thought he was a little bit crazy. You ever had people think you're crazy for something you're doing? Yeah, nobody? Yeah, a few people. A few of us have, right? Have you ever done something where everybody's telling you, don't do that, that's insane, that's not worth that. And to you, it's worth it. And so you spend whatever you need to spend, you do whatever you need to do to bring it in to where you've got that thing that you really want, that your heart is set on. And that's what this guy does. It's so valuable to him that he sells everything he has in order to buy the field. And notice this, lastly, notice the way in which he does it. Look at verse 44 again. The kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field, which a man found and covered up. Then in his joy, he goes and sells all that he has and buys that field. He wasn't begrudgingly getting rid of his stuff in order to buy this piece of land, right? He saw the inestimable value of this treasure, and he decided it was worth all the things he had plus a lot more. And so it was a joyful thing for him to give over all that he had to get this land so he could have that treasure. So what does this mean for us? I'm so glad you asked that question. Here's what it means for us. I'm just going to break it down into three things that should be easy for us to hang on to. The first thing that it should do for us, it should teach us that true salvation in Jesus is found when we see Jesus as our greatest treasure. When we see Jesus as our greatest treasure. You know, how many years did I hear the gospel of Jesus